Good evening, everyone. Stephen Traxler here. Welcome to our Thursday night, once a month It Matters session with the Missions America Department for the Assemblies of the Lord Jesus Christ. I'm your host, Stephen Traxel, and I am the Missions America Director. I am so glad to be joined tonight with my great friend, good buddy, colleague, side partner in crime, Reverend Art Schnitzer, Bishop Schnitzer in Africa. Love this man. He serves as our church growth director. And he also doesn't just serve as church growth director for Missions America. He also serves as the tri-state missions director, world
World
missions
Missions
director.
Director. Yes,
And
sir.
so that's what I love about Art. He's all about missions, whether it's home missions or foreign missions. And we're seeing a great work in Kenema, Sierra Leone. I think brother Pastor Moses might even be on this call, be on this Facebook Live event with us. Seeing great things happen there. It matters why we join here, why we do what we do. It's all about training churches to reap the harvest, giving you some insight that could possibly help you break beyond previous borders. We'd love to help you. If you want to reach out to us on our website, themissionsamerica.aljc.org. You can say, hey, we'd love to have you come to our church. We'd love to come and bring our team to help you with whatever that means, whatever you need. We do have a Missions America podcast. You can check that out at any of the podcast platforms. You can find us there. There's also some good information about that as well. Tonight's topic, as we get started, I know we get started a little bit late. It is technology. It happens. But we have a very important topic, and it's all about the guests that visit your church. Brother Art, I was reading a little earlier it's on theguardian.com. It's called theguardian.com website. And it says this, it says, churches are closing at a rapid number in the U.S. Congregations are dwindling across America, and we now see a country full of young Americans abandoning Christianity altogether. The U.S. is adjusting to an increasingly non-religious population. And although I was reading that, although it sounds scary, I'm excited because I believe that the Jesus name people really have the power to change this trajectory. I believe that when people experience the Holy Ghost, they experience the power of Jesus, it does change their life that possibly previous other maybe church visits didn't do for them. But when they walk into an apostolic church that's full of the Holy Ghost, they can experience a life transformation.
Amen.
However, we do have to get them into our building, and we do have to put our
Yeah.
best foot forward. So, Brother Art, our three topics that we're going to try to discuss this hour are building a strong guest experience team, putting the right people out there. Next is creating a good guest experience when they come to our church, how to make sure that their experience is the best. And then finally, getting them to come back. Retention is such a big thing. And Brother Art, you have ministered across our country, across the world. You have been involved in Bible studies for many years, and I would love to hear from you. I guess if we want to start at building a strong guest experience team, or take us to where you want to start, and then we'll listen to you. And then if I have any questions, we can go from there. And possibly if someone's listening or they're on this Facebook Live event, they can maybe text in Brother Greer. Brother Greer, thank you so much, sir, for your
Yes, sir.
social media helping us. We appreciate you very much for being part of our team. I love working with our members of our team. We're family, and so I appreciate both of you guys. All right.
Amen.
Enough about
Amen.
me, Brother Art. Let's turn over to you, our church growth director. God bless you, sir.
Well, it's good to be here tonight. And I want to thank my friend, Scott Cooper. He's here with me in my office. He's got me all set up with the mics and the cameras and the lights and everything. And I want to thank him for what he's meant to me and helping me with my videos and so forth, and helping us with these productions. But most important guests are the most important people in every church service. The most important people. It's not that the regular attendees are not important. Obviously they are, but if we're about reaching people, then we need to learn how to assimilate our guests, to communicate in a way and with our guests, and make our guests feel so welcome and so at home that it becomes very, very easy for them to want to come back again. And this is one of those subjects that you can dive in from so many different areas, and it all pertains in a lot of ways to, I guess, the size of the church we're talking about. If I can start with the church that I attend, FAC Maryville, we're running now, just give you an example, about 750 on our Sunday morning services. Last year we had 2,600 first-time guests.
Wow.
2,600. So it's over 200 a month. And so where the whole concept of a team concept that we were talking about really began to come into my mind and my focus was the great team that we have at FAC Maryville, and it's headed up by a former pastor from Washington State, I believe. It might be Oregon, but I believe it's from Washington State, Nick Johnstone. And he began to attend our church, I don't know, maybe a little over a year ago or something. And he began to really focus on our guests. Now we had a good guest follow-up, good guest network and so forth that stemmed from our greeters team and our ushers and those that take attendance and so forth. And so we have always been very attentive to our guests. But Brother Nick has brought it to a whole new level. And what we do, to give you just to give you an example, and then we'll play off of that and bring it down to how it can work in different sized churches. So let me just give you a thumbnail sketch of what we do. So we get this volume of guests that are coming in. Now, one of the things that you've got to have in talking about assembling a team, the very first thing you need on that team are people who have several attributes to them, several qualities to them. First of all, they have to be people persons, people. They have to, they have to genuinely love people and know how to begin a conversation with people. You can't have somebody just to hold out a wet hand, shake their hand and say, hey, good to have you today. You've got to have some people, ideally, that know how to, engage people in some conversation where they feel comfortable talking about why they're there, who they are, if somebody brought them, if they're new in town, whatever the dynamics are that brought them to the church. So what number one quality of a team member would be somebody who is good with people, has some good people skills, a personable individual. The next quality they need to have is somebody that's got a good eye for faces. Not everybody does. You get a big church with a number of people we have walking in our doors and at FAC, and you've got to be pretty sharp to identify a first-time guest. It can get a little hairy, and so you need people that are going to be able to sense and tell when somebody is walking in that door for the first time. Do they hit it 100% correct all the time? I'm sure they don't. I've worked on teams like that, worked with teams, put teams together like that, trained teams like that, and I know that there always is the issue of somebody that maybe they've been coming for months and you approach them as if they're a first-time guest, and it's a little awkward situation. And maybe we'll have time to talk a little bit how to handle that down the road. But those are probably the two greatest qualities that you can have, other than obviously faithful people on any team in God's kingdom when you're putting teams together. But somebody that is very personable, and some individuals that are sharp. They have an eye for the member so that they can spot when a guest comes through the door just by their demeanor, their way. When they come through, you can tell they're not familiar with the place, right? And so those are two key things. I don't want to take up all the conversation. If you want to say anything at this point.
No. Do you have a, I guess I asked you, do you have a guest service like training each week or each month? Do you guys constantly meet as far as how to best practices to meet a guest as a team member? Or how do you guys train those
when I was on staff at FAC, when I was over these teams, we would meet on a monthly basis. To be honest with you, I'm not quite sure how often. I think it might be monthly. I don't know. It might be quarterly that Brother Johnson meets with his team. But what the team does, let me explain what the team does. Not only, so there's several levels to the team. One of them is our greeter staff. They're the between the parking lot staff and the greeter staff. They're the ones that are first meeting these guests coming in the door. And so they will at least get a name. They'll at least get a name and see where they're seated, right? And so they're immediately texting Nick Johnston. He's the captain of the what I'll call the guest team, the next step guest team. And so now they've got a complete team of individuals that when that person is seating, they will literally go over to them and begin to engage them in a conversation. They will tell them about the coffee shop. They will tell them about our next step, our Welcome Home series, that after service, our guests go to a 4-week Welcome Home series. We try to, get them engaged in that, where they will receive a gift, they'll receive, they'll get to meet some of the staff and ministerial family and so forth, some of the members from that, and begin to get just a heads up about what, if they're interested, what next steps might look like for them in getting involved in FAC. And so when we began to break down that wall with one of the team members from that guest experience team, they will often tell them, they'll say, hey, at the end of service, I'll come get you. They don't even just rely on them at the announcement at the end. At the end of the service, there's generally an announcement about, if you're a guest, please meet us, and so forth in the room that it's in. And these guest team members will often go and keep an eye out for them and look for them and walk with them into the room, meet them and go into the room with them, trying to get them at least to that next, what we consider that very next step, which is that welcome home offering that we do, the next step, the 4-week game plan for that. So that's the first step that we're doing.
I like what you said about people persons, because not everybody is cut out for every position.
Right. Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Finding the wrong people.
Yeah.
Can you, so as far as building a good guest service team, you want people that are good with other people, can shake hands. So obviously, how soon can you use somebody in the church that for a guest greeter team? It seems like new converts are great for it because they're so happy, they're so excited. Is that a good role for a new convert, or would you say that's something for more of a seasoned saint?
I can only in that situation give my opinion. How where that line is drawn at FAC, maybe maybe in one place, and that's all well and good. Obviously you can't use somebody immediately walking in the door, but when somebody begins to show an interest in that, and they begin to line up with what FAC stands for. Some line up earlier and want to be a part earlier. Some don't. It depends on where they're coming from. Where a lot of it's an individual thing. When you're working with guests, it's more of an art than a science. At FAC, I don't know if you're aware, but at FAC, anybody that is used in any capacity at FAC, we have a I'm sure I'm at a loss for what we call it right now, because I haven't seen it in a while. But we have a whole booklet of this is what FAC is about, and they're agreeing to everything in the booklet. If they want to be involved, they're signing that they that they agree to that. So whether you're a choir member, whether you're a greeter, whether you work in the parking lot, security team, whatever your role, everybody signs that one agreement that here's what we stand for, here's what we believe, and they're agreeing to that. So
and this is such an important thing for every church. It is really the first step of when someone walks into your church. These people, they see the smile on their face, people can smile easily. It's so important. So when we get the right people, and of course this works for Brother Art, this works for people, churches of 5,000 or 5 people. It can just be one person, right? One person greeting people as they come to the door. It's so important that someone's there at the door.
Right. In a small church, often it could be even just the pastor or the pastor's wife. I know some of our smaller churches, the pastor or the pastor's wife is in that in that role, or one of the grown children or something is in that role. I know Brother Fontenot's got help from his daughter and so forth, just as an example. But somebody should be greeting people. Nobody should come to one of our churches and not feel a friendly welcome, a recognition that they're there, and begin to get to want to know them. Obviously, depending on the size of the church, the dynamics are greatly different. If you're talking a church, one of our home mission churches that are running 12 people versus a church like yours with 200, 225, or an FAC with 700-800 people, the dynamics change, the needs change. There are some things that are consistent, and we've talked about them. We've talked about them we've talked about them many times in the past. That we're big on that first impression.
Mm-hmm.
When guests walk in, what is the first impression that they're getting? So we're talking about uh, uh, that retention factor, what causes people to want to stay. And when
Right.
people walk in, they walk in with their senses wide open. It's not only
Absolutely.
just a visual,
Yeah.
but there are other sensory factors involved. You know, our sense of smell is involved, our olfactory
Absolutely.
gland is involved, and not only what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what is the overall ambiance and the atmosphere when we walk into a place, how inviting, how
Right.
you know, just how does it draw us in? I mean, just like any other kind of a business or a restaurant, you know, people
Right.
are walking in and they're wanting to have, you know, we have to imagine them wanting to grow in their experience with God from wherever they are. They're wanting to have an intimate relationship with God. They're wanting to be able to be in an environment of people that they can associate with and feel comfortable with and feel a part of. And so there's so many factors that go into uh,
Yeah.
you know, that first time when they walk in the door.
Right. And this is such an intentional thing, to think that someone else will do it or it'll get done or
Yeah,
someone else will greet that person. First of all, you know, we teach everyone's a greeter, right? Everyone's a greeter.
absolutely.
But that, and that's true, but you do have a greeting team that
Yeah,
leads that. The first people that are there, when they first come to the church and they see these people. So it's such an intentional thing that when you go to a place and you have a great experience, man, there's so much work that goes behind you having that good experience that it's like people don't even know the requirements of that. But and again, this is for a small church. If you got one person or two people, maybe get a young person. We love, and I guess we're kind of moving into that next part of the topics as far as creating that good guest experience. When you get those good people that are people, once you get those people in place, then of course it is that experience that wants to get them to come back. And I've learned, and I know it's true, and you've heard this, Brother Art. People will often forget what you said to them, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
absolutely.
And so I know you guys at the, I mean, FAC Maryville is great. You got everything. Uh, you think of everything, including the music that's out in the parking lot when someone comes
Yeah,
in, music's playing. I love that.
yeah.
If that was in Michigan, we'd have icicles hanging from those. You would be able to hear as well. But I love that the whole experience is great. It's thought out. It's a mindset that we want to have the best experience. So you guys have what you call from parking lot to pew. Some people might not have the ability to have the people in parking lot waiting, or they might even have a parking lot. So what would you say is the top 3 or 4 ways of making sure someone's experience at their church is great to where they want to come back, and maybe separates you from all the other places they've been before?
Well, every church needs to be a friendly church. People
Absolutely.
people like friendliness, right? So people like, and you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about how are we making them feel? How are we making them feel? You know, there's a fine line between totally ignoring somebody when they walk in the door
Yeah.
and being like an overly friendly lapdog, you know,
Yeah.
just totally overdoing the friendliness and the you know, on them a little, smothering them. So there's got to be a happy medium there. And again, everything has to do with the dynamics that's going on in the church where people are coming to. And again, I can easily speak for FAC Maryville, and FAC Maryville. Yes, it's a great church, but there's many aspects of FAC Maryville that are totally adaptable to even churches of a couple hundred like yourself, and churches of 100, or church of 50. One of the things that's very important, and we talk about it all the time, and it plays a big part in the guest experience and guest retention, is the church culture. And so our church culture is such that, and I say this with pride, but I'm trying not to be an ugly pride, but I mean it sincerely. When people come to FAC and they're sitting there and they're experiencing all these stuff, all the stuff that goes on, it's not a matter of us having to entice them too much to want to get involved. What
Yeah.
is going on, and the culture and the atmosphere lends itself to them wanting to be proactively to see how they can be involved in many instances. It's not a matter of a big draw. It's a matter of us directing them, because there already is that sense that, hey, this is a place I'd like to be a part of this. I'd like to be a part of this. So now, deconstructing that, let's look at that and talk about that. Every church needs to try to create that kind of an atmosphere, that kind of a culture, that when people come in, and I don't want to get off talking on church culture, it's a totally different subject, but when people come in, they have got to sense an atmosphere and an environment of something that they want to be involved in. It's not a matter of having to twist their arm to go to a next step class, or twist their arm to go out to lunch or a cup of coffee with somebody. It should be a natural progression from a visit. When people visit our churches, they're coming for a reason. They don't just randomly get up on a Sunday morning and decide at the last minute that they're going to go and visit your church, right? There's been some forethought, some planning, some reason, whether it's an event in their life, a series of events, a decision that they want to draw closer to God, a decision that they heard something about Pentecostal or Apostolics and they'd like to go check it out. Whatever it is that's motivating, there's something that was a cause for them to want to come into that church. And that's what needs to be explored and developed a little bit, and, kind of ushered into that next step in a way that convinces them that, look, you didn't make a mistake coming here. God directed you here, and begin to get to know, go beyond that shell and begin to get to know them a little bit. So, at FAC, obviously, with over 200 guests a month, obviously, we're not going to be able to take everybody out for lunch after service, right? But in a smaller church, you certainly could. A smaller church might get, 6 to 10 visitors a month, guests a month. And so if you're a smaller church and you're in that 20 to 25, 30 range or something like that, I think it's a good thing for either, if it's not the pastoral team, somebody in the pastoral team, somebody designated there that's a couple or an individual that, again, has those qualities, good with people, conversationalist, to begin to already begin to build a relationship. In that next step right there, if the conversation goes right, the best thing that could happen from that conversation, in my opinion, from that get together, would be a home Bible study open up. Right. And so then you're in a whole nother ball game then, as far as retention, in my opinion, because whether they're coming back to the church immediately or not, they're meeting with a couple from the church, and they're still connected to that body, still connected to that church. And so
I do want to say you hit the nail on the head when you talked about going out to eat afterwards. That's such a huge thing for me. That's one thing that we stress. If there's a guest or family and maybe they're your age, maybe if they're in their late 30s and your late 30s, finding a family to match with that guest. And like you said, a church of it might be tougher for a church of 700 or 800 people, but a church of from 10 to 150 or 200, there's usually, you're right, amount of guests that they can manage that right now. And I told the church, listen, we spend our money. We want to spend our money on things that are reach souls. And I told people, listen, it's expensive. It's expensive to go out to eat anymore. And I told the church, if you struggle with finances to do that, but you're willing to take someone out, I said, bring us back your receipt. Now I know every church can't do this, but I made this point for us. Bring back your receipt. We'd like to reimburse you for that food, because we believe it's so important that conversation after service is what connects people to the body, because church is a community. It's not just about what happens in the walls of church. It's about afterwards, because I look at it like this. When people come to our church, they experience maybe the apostolic experience for the first time. Their mind is buzzing, like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So when you can take them out to eat after service and they see you as a regular person that maybe owns a business, or you've got kids like theirs, and you've got struggles and trials and all these things,
Right.
and you're breaking bread together, man. I think the mission of Jesus was so adamant about eating with people. And he did it
Absolutely.
oftentimes
Absolutely.
that man,
That breaking
oh,
of bread just breaks down walls, breaks down barriers. There's something about eating and fellowship, and it's a big part of the New Testament church in the book of Acts.
absolutely. And maybe someone's watching this. Trust me, Pastor, I know how it is. As Pentecostals, we get into our comfort zone. We get in our
Yeah.
little clique, these same 6 people every Sunday. And I try to encourage my church. Listen, maybe on a Sunday, get out of your little clique and go meet somebody that you haven't met yet, or a family or whatever, and get out there and get to know them and ask them what their name
Right.
is. And if you see anything that's similar to you, or to try to find that common ground, and then invite them, if they're up to it, to go out to eat afterwards. Now, I know we're not in a very, it's kind of weird to people be over friendly. This is weird. They're asking me out to lunch. They don't even know who I am. But if they like what they feel in the service, and you do a good job of creating that Holy Ghost feel, and they
Yeah.
feel an opening in their spirit, and then you welcome them, they feel that love, and they're more willing to say, sure, I'd love to come out and join you. And I always say, no pressure, but me and my wife are going to so-and-so. We'd love to have you join us,
Yeah. Just that simple. Exactly. Exactly. If they beg off, they beg off and say, go try to go to the next step. See if you can maybe meet them during the week for a cup of coffee or whatever. Just some next connection with them, if at all possible. We're not gonna engage. We had all 2,600 guests last year, and bear in mind, a lot of those guests were where we are in Maryville is one of the top vacation spots in America, the foothills.
right,
Yeah, right. So
right,
the Smokies, one of the top destinations. So we get a ton of, guests that are there just vacationing or from other churches and so forth, in America, and they come in the
right.
area and they've seen FAC online. They want to come to FAC to check it out,
Yeah,
and so a lot of it is that also, but you're not going to connect with everybody. The whole idea is just like you're fishing. You want to give your best shot to everybody. throw
right,
throw it out there, and
right,
we don't know which ones are going to respond right offhand. You don't know, and so
right.
you just get a uniform approach with people. You use wisdom, but you've got to have a game plan. You can't just fly and
Yeah,
randomly from week to week with just anybody. I mean, if you're thinking teamwork, you need to have a team that is trained, that understands what the goals are in working with those guests, what information we're trying to look
yeah,
at, what we're trying to
yeah,
put together. Now, listen, here's what uh, brother Nick Johnstone does also. I mean, every guest that he can possibly look, once he gets the information, once the team gets the information, he or whoever else goes online, goes on Facebook. Most people are on Facebook or Instagram or some social media, and he literally will pull up a picture of them or the family or whatever and puts that all together, and then he meets with the pastoral team on Mondays, and they can visually see all the guests that visited on that Sunday and talk about it. And now by then they've already got some notes down of who's what, why they came, where
right,
they came from. Are they moving to the area? Are they not? Do they already live there? A friend invited them. What, they saw us online and are coming, or interested in a Bible study or not? They came to our Welcome Home series. All the details, from what I understanding, he's got, and they discuss at that Monday morning meeting. It's a great approach. It really is a
right.
really great approach, especially for a large church to have a handle on things like that. So,
Yeah,
but now again, it can be scaled back. That's to me an ultimate ideal situation that we've got going on. But you scale it back.
yeah,
Sometimes, and let me just throw this in there because it's, I guess, one of my soapbox little talks that I like to do, or things that I mention a lot. Let's scale back to the home mission church. Home mission church. In my opinion, if I were going to start a home mission church, and we're talking about, because let me start from a different perspective. Sometimes we'll get, like, a home mission couple or whatever, a home mission family, and the first thing they want to do is open up a building, and it'll be just them. They maybe have a friend that comes, or maybe a mother or a father-in-law, and they attend. So it's just them there. So now, a guest comes in and obviously they're going to be all over them, or two people come in, they're going to be all over them. And it's an awkward situation from both sides, especially I will tell you from the guest side to come into that atmosphere. To me, it is a very difficult way to try to get a church off the ground. We've seen it. I don't need to mention names, but even just recently, talking and interviewing different individuals for potentially be AAC pastors. We've seen situations where they've got people coming and suddenly they've got nobody coming. They've got 10 or 12 coming and suddenly they're all gone.
Yeah.
And, so let me say this. If I were going to start a church, if I was going to start a church, it would be done starting home Bible studies in my home, or
Absolutely.
at some public place like a library or some, Starbucks. That way, your first group of people that are the guests, so to speak, are guests that are coming to your Bible study. And see, this is where you're beginning to build your foundational team that you're pouring into, beginning to develop and start your culture of what you want your church to grow to in 3 years, in 5 years. You're starting then with a team when you get to the point where you've got 12 or 15 or 20, like I've seen a couple of pastors do recently. Build that up, then begin to look for a place that you can meet that is not in the home.
Right.
I think we get things backwards, and it creates such awkward situations that literally hinders the growth of some of our church plants. And I'm just going to throw that out there.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You're talking about setting the cart before the horse, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. We interviewed a brother recently who had I believe this is his third church plant that he's wanting to do. And he talked about it. And I was just amening him all through his interview, because he has got the combination that you need to have. He does not worry about a building. The building's the least of his worries when he goes into a city. He wants to build a core group of people through personal relationship through home Bible study in his home, that sort of thing. And then together finding a place and building from there. And that to me is the textbook way that it should be done. So you're not running into that awkward situation when we talk about guest teams right now, and somebody says, well, I've only got 7 people in my church. Well, why is that?
We have a couple questions actually that people are asking that I'll ask you here in a second. Good. I do want to get touch base. I know you talked about the senses when people walk into the building, all the senses are in work. One question was about and I think we made it. I don't know if we made it sound like it was only one-sided, but for greeters, we want males and females to greet. We want a good, because obviously if it's a man comes in, maybe the man can talk to them, a female can talk to them. So we definitely want it to be a mixed bag of people, greeting us when we come to the door.
Right. For a long time, greeters, the greeters were associated, ushers were men, greeters women, kind of thing, And so we have a mix now at FAC. We have male and female greeters.
You do?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Another question, Brother Art, was someone want to know what is the role of the parking lot people in your parking lot? Like, what do they? Our role is tell them to slow down, don't drive so fast. What you guys? That's our parking lot guys. You're like, slow down. No.
Well, we have designated. We have a couple of things. First of all, for the guests, we have designated parking areas that are very convenient for them to walk right into the church, and so we have a sign that is up, and I believe that it says, if you're here for the first time, if you're a first time guest, please blink your lights, that sort of thing. Wow. And they're welcoming everybody coming in. They're waving, they're welcoming everybody. They're saying to everybody, just they're there welcoming. You got the music playing in the parking lot. And if you're a first time guest, they'll pull over, and then that individual gets their name, meets them and so forth, and says, hey, let me direct you to a parking place. And they have cones set out, for the various parking places, and they'll help them direct them right to a parking place, and they sort of direct them and usher them into not walk with them, but direct them into the sanctuary, where they will then have somebody open the door for them, and then the greeters are there and so forth. So
I've got a crazy off the cuff question here, Brother Art.
Yeah.
Do you guys have how do you guys deal with smokers at your that come to your church? We had a last Sunday, we had a gentleman, and it hasn't happened in a long time, right in our, where our front of our church is.
Yeah,
We had a gentleman standing right in the very front. People coming into the service, coming to the church, and he's just smoking a cigarette. He's a guest, and he's an older gentleman. Do you guys have
yeah.
like a how do you guys talk to, like, do you guys have a place off, like you say this is a non-smoking campus? If you want to smoke, go over here, like into the back 40 and smoke your cigarette. Does
Yeah,
it
I mean,
ever
I
come up?
don't know. I haven't personally run into that. I have seen one or two in my coming into the church. We also have like a rehab type ministry drug sort of, like the free program and so forth. So we get all different types of individuals that come, and of course they're very, very welcome, but some of them have not, obviously gotten the victory over smoking.
Right.
And I have seen them not at the front door or anywhere real close to the church, but outside the building or after church,
Yeah.
in the parking lot or something, lighting up a cigarette. I have never said anything to them. I've
Yeah.
never, seen the opportunity or desire to. It's not like they're standing at the front door where I've had to say, "Would you mind going down the way a little bit?" I
Yeah.
haven't I haven't seen that happen. Now, does anybody do that or direct them? I honestly don't know. But
Yeah.
it is not a big problem with us. I will tell you that it's not an
Yeah.
overwhelming, glaring problem or anything.
I mean, it's part of the growth. It's we want people like that, right? We don't want
Sure.
people just like us. So how
Sure.
you handle those people, because we want people from with all backgrounds, and we do
Yeah.
have we do have a sign that says non-smoking campus.
Yeah, we do.
If they
Exactly.
want to
We have
walk
signs. Yeah.
at the end of this, there's a place by the end of the church that if they want to smoke there, they can. But I know some one of those situations where maybe some I don't how do you handle it? Do you let them finish the smoking, or do what do you know? So that's just a question that happened to us last week. So
Yeah.
I want to know how you guys.
Yeah. I mean.
So anyways, let's talk about one thing that I think is so important is that we, as church members, we need to think like a guest, right? And I've said this before, if you have a church, if you go to a church, that's your church, man, you love your church. If your church has broken down windows and they got, messed up, whatever, you're still going to go there because that's your church. But it's so important that you, as a pastor or someone that wants to see church growth, it's important that you go through your church building and think, if I'm a guest, what am I noticing, right? Am I noticing something missing over here? Am I noticing a smell coming from over there? Someone has, I
Right.
mean, people, these small details are so important that I
Yep.
think like an overflowing stinky garbage can.
Oh
I mean,
man. Absolutely. Absolutely.
these things just don't just happen by themselves. Someone's got to be in charge of thinking about all these little details. So it's almost like we need to have someone that's very detail oriented that can say, I'm looking at this lobby right now, and this lobby is scary, right? It's dark. And what about brother Art? You were telling a story about one time you came to a church and you're the guest and they didn't know who you were, but you went to the church and like no one even you walked to the building, no one was even
Right.
there. Church was getting
Nobody.
ready to start, no one greeted you. I mean, these are things that are
Yeah.
killers. They're
Yeah.
killers when it comes to people visiting your church.
Yeah. Oh man, absolutely. Absolutely. It was that was an unbelievable experience. Um, it's interesting that you mentioned. I have some notes here. These are things that guests look to. We talk about what are guests looking for when they come. Now, obviously, you're talking about that first impression. Yes, all those things are absolutely essential. One of them, this was from a survey, by the way. This was a survey of guests saying, "What are you looking for? What do you find awkward? What do you find difficult?"
Yeah.
One of them was called direction dilemma.
Hmm.
Direction dilemma.
Yeah.
Are your parking signs clear and inviting? Better yet, is there special guest parking? Once parked, are the entrances clearly marked? I'll be honest with you. I have gone to churches, Deb and I have gone to churches, and honestly, we're not quite sure what door to go into that was the sanctuary.
Right.
It was not clearly identified. And so you could not really tell what door to go into for the sanctuary, where we were supposed to be. Number two was the things that guests look at, the general appearance of the facility. Is the building clean, painted, attractively landscaped, and maintained? These are things that don't necessarily cost a lot of money, regardless of your facility.
Right.
Is the signage professional in appearance? We've talked about this. You don't want to hand paint the sign. You know,
Yeah.
is the signage professional in appearance? Is the interior clean and fresh smelling? Is the lobby clean and attractive? Are the bathrooms clean and properly supplied? Number three with guests was kid confusion. kid, K-I-D, confusion.
Good
It cannot be stressed enough that a clean, safe place, positive children's experience can be the key to a family's future attendance to your church. If you have a family and guests come and they've got children, you
Huge.
really need to have it together for the children.
Absolutely.
It is important to communicate to a guest where their children or babies should go and when, how
Yeah.
clearly are the classrooms identified with signage, how are the children welcome? Are they corralled in like they're, like somebody's a schoolmaster and
Yeah.
they're, ordered into place and to be quiet and, so how are the children welcome? Better yet, how simple is the sign in and sign out process?
Yeah.
People in today's world want to make sure their kids are safe. They want to make sure they're in a secure environment. Number 4 is great greeters. We've talked about this. Great greeters. And I won't go further into that because that's what we've been talking about. Another thing that is good to have is an information station. We can do. Go ahead.
Go talk about the information station. What is that all
Yeah,
about?
well, we have 2 large areas in our grand lobby. One is a bookstore. The other one acts as they do other things besides this, but it is an information station. If there's anything at all going on that you can sign up there. There's one place you go for anything that's announced, anything you want to do, you will get clear direction when you go to that particular information station. Most greeters will also be well equipped to handle that information. But the other thing is, it's all on our church app. One of the first things that happen when a guest goes into that welcome home is they download our app so that they're able to keep track of anything going on in the church, because they'll receive all that information. So they download that church app, and that gives them all the information that they could possibly want about FAC. And so that becomes their information station, because from there you can sign up for anything also when you have that app, and you're also kept informed of everything going on. You get all the texts and so forth to be a part of what's going on. So those are some of the clear some of the things that were talked about in the survey by guests that just went to various churches, things that they thought were so important.
Right. And we believe that we have what they need. We believe we have the power, but all these things can hinder that, right?
Oh,
we want them to be because it's already a miracle they show up to our church at all. I mean, with all the devil has to throw at them, they can do whatever they want, and they choose to come to our church. We want that man to be such an easy flow from parking lot to pew when they get there, so they can just have a genuine, nice experience with the Lord to where it can touch their heart, to they're going to want to come back. How do you guys, this might be a simple question, might be overly simple. How do you guys greet your first time guests in the service? Do you guys always take a moment and say, we like to take this time to greet our guests? I mean, some people, will call guests by name, and so, that's always been a thing where people don't like to be acknowledged. Do you guys say we're thankful of our guests that are here today?
Right. If it's a guest minister or, a special guest or something, a family member, maybe of one of the ministerial staff or something, they'll mention and greet them personally. But otherwise, all the guests are just greeted at once with, and then we give them what they call there when they talk about it, a good apostolic greeting, by just clapping our hands for them.
Yeah.
But right after that, in conjunction with that, we have a transition where the choir, this is the morning service, for example, where the choir is gathering together and they're going up to the choir loft. And so during that time, we have about a 3.5 minute meet and greet where people are going all around, right, and they make a special attention. Hey, be sure to seek out our guests, make sure they feel welcome, greet our guests, and everybody's greeting everybody and meeting the guests and all that kind of stuff. So it becomes a very warm and friendly atmosphere of people getting up, stretching, that kind of stuff, and getting around a little bit. And it's I think a nice way to handle it without individually pointing the guests out or having them stand or anything like that. Anything that would be awkward or frightening or embarrassing for some to be pointed out like that. So
would you guys call me out by name if I was there? Would you acknowledge me by name or?
Like I said, it would be important guests coming
Touche.
in.
All right. So what we do is we'll of course thankful for all the guests that show up, and then we'll say outside in the lobby at our guest services area, there's a gift for you waiting for you to say thank you for being here. We'd like to share with you more what we have to offer at Grace Apostolic Church. We'd love to have you come back. And I always also introduce, if you're looking for a church to worship, we'd love you to check Grace out. And, we're a great community of people, just trying to get them to realize that we're a community of people, that it's more than just what happens on a Sunday, and that we'd love to have their family come back and join us. But yeah, we always, after service, and this is part of the experience, after the service is when we have them go to the lobby and we'll say, I guess this can transition. I know it's 7:51. We're already kind of time's getting away, but part of the experience is we want them to leave on a high note. So we'll give them we have a mug or a tumbler with our logo on it, and that's at that point, because I guess we didn't really talk about this. When do you gather their information, right? So we gather. I don't like to try to get their information before service. Now everyone's different. I don't like to try to overwhelm them trying to get their information before service, because frankly, they don't know what they're getting into yet. I like to see if they have a good experience. They come to the lobby and then they give us their information. We used to take all the information on cards, but now we have iPads set up and they can put their information in through our planning center. If you don't have this for your church, I know Brother Art, you guys do probably. Planning center is a great avenue. They can put their information in. They can say, I'm interested in a Bible study. I enjoyed my experience. When they hit send, I, as a pastor, get an email saying Joe was here. This is what he was so glad to be here. He wants a Bible study. And then the next day when we have our meeting, our Tuesday meeting or staff meeting, we can talk about, this guy, and this guy want a Bible study. So, we send them to the greeting staff and we always have a gift. Gift bags, folks, are great. Maybe a little something for the kids and something for the adults to just say thank you for being here. That being said, Brother Art, once they've had a really good experience and it smells good and the handshakes, everyone's happy, the retention is such a big thing, right? It's so important that if they've had a good experience, that they're contacted during the week, because the next part is the retention and the follow-up of that experience, right? The huge thing is, yes, we're glad they came one time, but we want to get them to come back a second time.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about the retention and the follow-up after they've experienced one visit to your church?
Right. Well, everybody that comes, the number one goal is that they come back again. That's number one goal, is that they can come back again. And so everything that we're talking about would hopefully produce that second visit. A lot of times they might have come and they're guests of people who are members of the church. So again, you're looking at many different variables as far as any follow-up contact. Any follow-up contact that would be done, I believe that I'm not even sure now that they're sending out. We used to send out an email to the guests that had all of the information about the church and so forth, and pastoral family, and just kind of welcoming them and thanking them for coming. I'm not even sure that they do that anymore, because a lot of it is all now a part of what goes on in that the welcome home center. But I think through the entire process, from the beginning, greeter first meeting them on through a member of the guest team, then coming to them and talking to them and meeting them, and also them going to the welcome home series. At any time through there, they can be getting more information. I don't know that it is a situation where anymore that we get it in one spot or make them fill out something. Some are more willing than others to give information. I don't believe they're asking for a lot of information initially. It would probably just be an email or maybe a number. They don't mind receiving a text and a name, that sort of thing. And then from there, the rest of the notes will be filled in by whoever it is that's communicating with them, as we're adding to our knowledge base about that guest. I don't know that there is really. You would have, again, as I mentioned, when you're dealing with guests, it's not a science; it's more an art. So right. Depending on the conversation, the communication, the situation, all those variables would determine whether someone is going to get with them during the week for lunch or coffee, whether someone's going to get with them about a Bible study, or whether there will be no further contact, and it's just a hope and trust that they come back again. It is
Right.
it is not a science where this is what we're doing for everybody. We certainly do not call all of our guests. We certainly do not make visitation to all of our guests or anything like that. That used to be done in years past. We do not do that. Again, we try to front load everything, if I can use that term, kind of
Yeah.
front load everything that they really want to come back again. They enjoy the experience so much. Again, you mentioned they feel so good when they leave. They want to feel good again next week like that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And that's really what we rely on. That
Right.
and any sense that we can get to get any kind of an open door through Bible studies and so forth. I know that Nick Johnstone is big on connecting with people with Bible studies and so forth also.
Yeah.
And his team, and so that is basically what our approach is. That's our approach.
That's very good. I do want to say, if there's anybody on watching this right now, if any other questions, we'd be happy to answer them before we end tonight's session of It Matters. Of course, remember, It Matters is a ministry of the Missions America Department. If you have further questions, you can certainly reach out to us through our Facebook page or website. And we would love to answer those questions for you. We can come down to your church on a weekend and bring our team and talk about these things in more personal ways than just online. I do want to say that our church, we do have once someone puts their information into the iPads, as I was saying, Brother Art, they would automatically get a generated email to their email.
Yeah.
Saying, "We're so glad you joined us." As soon as
Sure.
they hit send, when they get home, there's an email saying, "It was so good to see you." And I believe Planning Center also will send out a follow-up text saying, "We're so glad to have you." Now, personally, if we have several guests, if they're interested in Bible study, whatever, I will text somebody and say, "Man, it's so good to have you." Either I'm glad I got to meet you, or I'm sorry I didn't get to meet you this time, but perhaps if you come back, I'll be able to see you again, Pastor Traxel. And as a pastor, of course, my church is smaller, so I can have that personal touch. And there's benefits of every size church, right? A large church has a far-reaching ability to reach further out because there's more people. Where a smaller church, you need to capitalize on the intimacy and the personalization of your congregation. Taking people out to eat, again, is a huge thing because you can afford it, because you've got less people coming, so you can make those niceties happen more and grow personally that way. But me and you, Brother Art, are on the same page as far as, man, get someone engaged in a Bible study. Get someone engaged in a Bible
study. See, because then what ends up happening, even if they don't want to come back to the service right away, and you've got an inroad into their home or them coming to your home, and the Bible studies are successful. They absolutely work. And now you're building relationship.
Yes.
So from that first connection when they come to church, if you don't see them again for 6 months, but you're with them in their home once a week with a Bible study, it is a win. It's not a matter of the retention of it. You will have retention from that. And that really should be your goal. If they come while they're doing the Bible study, wonderful. But I wouldn't stress it if they're not. If they're getting that word weekly, they will respond ultimately, and you're going to have a good, strong relationship built. And when they make that move and come, they will be ones that stick around.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, me and you love Bible studies, and it's not what I do is might not be good for everybody. Me personally, I love to have people come to my house as the pastor, but I also understand there's some pastors that like that separation. I'm just a people person, and my wife is so gracious to let me do this. And we'll have people 5 or 6 weeks in a row just come to our house, get to know me and my wife. And then when they come back to church, they've already met, they know us. Today I went to the hospital to pray for a lady because she's friends with a lady I'm teaching home Bible study to at my house. And I went to I met a new family praying for the mother that had a stroke because of a lady I'm teaching home. It's just, that's how it goes.
It does. It just absolutely, it just begins to multiply. You get in a whole network of people and families. Brother and Sister Carpenter both do personal home Bible studies. I mean, he's a general superintendent of the organization, over 1,000+ pastors, and that's how they still connect with people and do Bible studies and so forth. And they love it. They wouldn't stop doing that for anything, because it
Right.
works. It's how they built their church, you know.
Right, right. And I don't want to get too far out there, but I do want to let people know your website does work. We get a lot of people that check us out on our website. If you have social media or Instagram or Facebook, whatever, those things do work. We're living in the generation that those things are important. So put your best foot forward in those things.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you have a real good, smart person that's detail orientated, that's in charge of those things. You don't want just anything out there. And especially if you're videoing your service online, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. If you're not there yet, don't feel like you have to chase what your neighbors are doing or what the bigger church down the road is doing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not your thing right now.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. Maybe if you just want to maybe just get the preaching alone. But if you got people walking in front of the camera and you're live and people are just seeing people talking, and you got to, not everybody's in the same place in their journey. Some churches can do that. They're ready for it. And some churches aren't. Don't rush those things. It's better just to have a good experience when they get there, and maybe a decent website. You can use a lot of different easy companies are good with websites now. So those are important as well. But Brother Art, it's 8:01, and that's tonight's It Matters. Is there anything you want to end with as far as saying anything before?
I think we've said enough. I agree with you about the everything you just said. That website is now the new foyer of the church. That's the first door they're going to come through, is checking out your website and seeing what you're about, and that'll tell them a lot right there. And so that's that first impression, believe me.
Yeah.
And I think we're good to go.
And if you remember this, if you are going to do a website, you've got to keep it updated.
Yeah.
If they come to your calendar and it's from last year's Christmas play, it starts at 7:00 in 2023 and it's 2024. Bad stuff. And that's worse than not having a website at all.
Yep.
So just remember those things. Make sure it's a full-time job. Planning Center. The good thing about Planning Center, when you update Planning Center, it goes to your website. It's connecting to all those things and updates your calendar. So those are good things to have. But again, I want to say thank you to Brother Art Schnitzer, for our church growth director, for being on this session with us, and of course being the man behind all the It Matters that happens. You can go to our website, missionsamerica.aljc.org, and you can see follow-up It Matters, earlier It Matters. There's so many good topics there that can help your church grow and be blessed. I pray you guys are all blessed and you guys have a wonderful weekend and a great Sunday. Again, thank you, Brother Art. Brother Greer, thank you again, sir, for getting us on live. And we look forward to seeing you all at GMC. Remember, we are, as Missions America, we're hoping to get 100% giving participation. We're looking for every church to help pour into the Missions America department so that we can have future churches being planted right here at home. This is home, and home needs revival. So again, missionsamerica.aljc.org. Come check us out, see what's happening in this wonderful department that we love so much. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll call this a night.
God bless. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Good talking to you. God bless. Good to see you, Brother Traxel.